Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Northeast Connector. I'm your host, Wesley Taylor. For this episode, we're going to be going over the Dallas Cowboys NFL draft. Uh, Needless to say, this past draft was partly shocker, partly exciting, but very, very dividing within the Cowboys nation of fans and experts and analysts. Um, Kind of a contrast to last year, where a lot of things fell into place. There's a saying in the NFL draft: sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I think that definitely applied for last year's draft when the Cowboys were able to get CeeDee Lamb with the 17th overall pick. And in the second round, come back and get Trevon Diggs with which was exceptional value for a cornerback of his skills. And then a couple rounds after that, fourth round, they got Tyler Biadasz, which was center from Wisconsin. Excellent football player there who could follow in the footsteps of his former alumnus, Travis Frederick. So, yeah, a lot of things fell into place for the Cowboys draft last year. This year, there was an interesting turn of events that happened in the top 10. Everyone expected the Cowboys to take defensive back with the number 10 overall pick. That, needless to say, didn't happen. We had J.C. Horn, who was taking number 8 to the Carolina Panthers, and that was one person and player that I absolutely loved and was going to be absolutely thrilled to have on the Cowboys. He had close connections with Mike McCarthy, as Joe Horn's dad was a former wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. Mike McCarthy was the offensive coordinator there for several years under that amazing offense. Then follow up that pick with the number 9 overall pick. The Denver Broncos selected Patrick Surtain II, and so that was probably one of the most shocking turn of events. There's definitely speculation that the top two corners in Horn and Surtain could have been gone by the number 10 overall pick for the Cowboys, but that was not expected, to say the least. My other co-host, Kevin Longley, who also recorded his Washington football team draft recap, which is absolutely excellent. You should definitely check that out just for his Matthew McConaughey monologue alone. But I was texting him draft night and just, sending nervous gifs as those picks came through. And man, it absolutely blew us both away in terms of how things unfolded. So I think that kind of definitely sent the Cowboys brass into like I wouldn't say a panic because I think they prepared for these, but I think it was a little bit unexpected. So what ended up happening with the number 10 overall pick, they traded back with the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 spots and netted a third-round pick, getting some extra value for their trade down. So, it wasn't the trade down I was expecting. I was a little bit hoping for the Cowboys to emulate what the Giants did with their trade down, with the Bears coming up to the 11th overall pick to draft Justin Fields. But it's all good. The Cowboys, with the number 12 overall pick, ended up drafting Micah Parsons from Penn State, who's an exceptional linebacker. Opted out for the previous year in the COVID season, but still, regardless of that, he's a stud linebacker, can play multiple different positions, has athleticism that is off the chain, sideline to sideline athleticism that is just terrific. He can blitz from the edge, he can blitz from the middle, so he has tremendous ability from the linebacker position and can be extremely versatile in Dan Quinn's new defense. Now, there's always questions to the value of linebackers, especially the top 15 pick or in the early parts of the first round. I think Cowboys fans, including myself, are a little bit burned by previous draft picks. Leighton Vander Esch, who was drafted in the first round a few years ago, who actually showed tremendous promise, but there was definitely a conversation that due to his injury history, to have some neck issues, and due to the violence of the linebacker position, which I kind of equate to the running back position as well. You kind of see the similarities there. You have your front line, D tackle, defensive ends who can set the line, set the gaps, and provide opportunities for linebackers, just in the same way that offensive linemen can set opportunities for the running backs and allow them to thrive. So there's definitely some questions of value when it came down to the 12th overall pick in the selection of Micah Parsons, but without a doubt, the Cowboys are going to get one of the most dominant linebackers in recent memory. I think Micah Parsons actually has potential to be one of the best linebackers that the Cowboys have drafted since Dad Gwen, who was the undersized linebacker in the early 2000s, who also played alongside another undersized but explosive linebacker in Dexter Coakley. Both of those guys were tremendous. Fortunately, Dad Gwen's career was cut short due to injuries, and that just goes back to the violence of the linebacker position. It is extremely tough to play that position, extremely violent. So when you see guys we'll point out London Fletcher, who played a tremendously long career, who definitely deserves Hall of Fame consideration, played for such an extended period of time. It's incredible to behold. So with that being said, Micah Parsons, definitely can play in all different positions. His the stats that he put up in the year 2019 when he played for Penn State is tremendous. 50 defensive stops in 2019 was second most amongst linebackers in all of college football. So that's really, really impressive. PFF had his overall run defensive grade at 94.8, which is extremely high for a linebacker of his caliber and of his ranking. Coming from linebacker U in Penn State. After some consideration for the pick, I'm definitely very happy with the ability and potential for Micah Parsons to come in and shore up that defense. Jalen Lewis and Leighton Vander Esch both struggled mightily in the past few years. There's definitely been a regression, not only from this past year, but also from 2018. That was definitely noticeable. Jalen Lewis just lacks that explosiveness. He's supposed to be that type of guy who can come off the edge and blitz, just doesn't display that ability. He only has a few sacks and in his career. And is a liability in coverage as well. He's just unable to change direction. That injury really did hamper his athletic ability. He showed some displays of flashes in 2018, but it really wasn't there. Didn't put it all together. And same with Leighton Vander Esch, who's had multiple injuries in this past season. He struggled as well mightily, and I think a lot of that has to do with the defensive line too. The Cowboys' defensive line was, outside of DeMarcus Lawrence and Alden Smith, and you can say Randy Gregory came into the latter part of the season. They really struggled. They were second in the league in run defense, second lowest in run defense. Excuse me. So not the type of performance that you want out of that defense. So the good news is with Micah Parsons, he can come in and impact and be a day one starter potentially, where they place him, most likely put him at Sam or a designated pass rusher. I think Dan Quinn definitely will, in his press conference stated that they're going to probably run a more 3-4, multiple front, 4-3 hybrid look. So I think Parsons can get a lot of good looks off the edge. He can also come downhill. If he plays on that will side, he can line up right behind the 3 technique and have ability to rush the pass from the inside because he's just so explosive. He does a really great job of negating blockers as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Quinn uses him. They're definitely going to have many versatile looks. Keanu Neal's going to come down into the box too and play linebacker. So they're going to have a lot of pieces to play with in terms of maximizing strength. And we'll get to the later pick of Jabril Cox in the 4th round, which was exceptional value, and how he also plays into that. But Parsons definitely is going to be a tremendous piece for the Cowboys defense. And a tone setter for years to come if he stays healthy. And really, there's no reason to think he won't stay healthy. Granted, he doesn't have any major injury history. I think one of the big negatives I would say with Parsons, and this is kind of a trend that was on display for the Cowboys draft in terms of the later players that they drafted, are some character issues, character concerns. Parsons had some incidents with hazing, hazing allegations that came out of that, and I think that's a symptom of being in very I would say rowdy environment at Penn State. Getting involved with people who are looking to boss people around. Hazing is definitely a big thing in college, especially in fraternities and sororities. So it's definitely something that it's easy to get carried away if you're around people who don't have the best influence around you. So I think with Parsons, if he can come into the locker room, the Cowboys leadership in place, there are some questions, as Sean Lee is now retired, but if Sean Lee can come into the linebacker room as a potential coach or assistant, I think he could definitely take Parsons under his wing and guide him into a better future. There's no doubt that Parsons' on-field attitude is just second to none. The guy plays as hard as anyone you'll see. Coming onto a team that he absolutely adored. His father is a huge Cowboys fan, diehard Cowboys fan, and there was a picture on Twitter of Parsons tweeting himself out in this game in AT&T Stadium, hoping to stay in blue and white. So I think Parsons will come in, with a great mentality for football. Off the field, that will remain to be seen, but I think overall, his athletic ability, his ability to stop the run, his ability to use his athleticism to guard running backs, jet sweeps, I think it's just going to help this Cowboys defense tremendously. So I think overall, I do approve of the Cowboys pick. There was obviously chatter with Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, whether he could come in and, potentially be the replacement for Tyron Smith if he ever got hurt. You could easily plug him into left guard in place of Connor Williams. And his position flexibility and the value there definitely was, a great argument there for him to be drafted at 12th overall. But Cowboys opted for Parsons, and that's all well and good. He's definitely going to be an upgrade for this defense, and that's definitely what the Cowboys need approval on. And we'll see, whether that was a good decision or not. But moving on to the second round, after the Cowboys did miss off on those top two corners, they did draft Kelvin Joseph from Kentucky, who has displayed tremendous athletic ability, sub 4.4, 40. The guy, when you look at him on tape, especially the game against Tennessee, when he's able to break on the ball with such quickness and athleticism, that pick six against Tennessee was just such a great example of that. He's got great coverage ability down the field. When him and Devontae Smith went at it in their game versus Alabama, he on 3 targets, he allowed no catches and had 1 interception. He does an exceptional job guarding down the field. And when you're talking about Dan Quinn's cover 3 defense, man press, I think that's definitely going to be a great fit for him. Definitely not the tallest, 6'1". He does possess great athletic traits. The one challenge with Kelvin Joseph that he's going to need to be mindful of is his eyes. It's very easy for him to get, looking at the backfield, looking at the quarterback, and have a guy, run behind him. But what he does do exceptionally well is when he does get out of place, he uses his athleticism really well to shift, turn his hips, and get back into position. So he displays great coverage ability, but his eye discipline is definitely going to be the one area that he's going to need to improve. And hopefully Dan Quinn and DB coaches in Dallas can really make sure that's an area that he can work on with. Definitely think he's going to be a great boundary corner opposite Trevon Diggs. I think he can also play in the slot too because he just has that speed, that top line speed that can match up with slot receivers really well. So he's very, very versatile. So I think that was a really great pick for the Cowboys in the second round. And I think he can really come in and be a starter. There's definitely going to be some growing pains that come from his selection. He's potentially going to be bit on a double move looking inside, bit on a play action fake or stuff like that. But those are definitely the growing pains you can expect from a rookie corner of his acumen. But other than that, Kelvin Joseph, athletic ability with production, second most interception in the SEC last season. The only unfortunate part about that, he did opt out of the final 2 games. And there's been definitely some off the field issues with Kelvin Joseph. Some people think that he's more concerned with making music and mixtapes versus actually playing on the football field. He was asked by Kentucky to opt out of those games, almost like they were dismissing him from the program. He had some issues when he was at LSU as well. So that's another, second pick right there that has character concerns. I think the Cowboys have almost fully removed themselves from the right kind of guys that you've seen with Jason Garrett. But once again, they picked another player with great athletic ability who could come in and make an impact day one for the Cowboys. So will remain to be seen how he handles himself off the field, but on the field, there's no doubt that his potential is superb. Now moving along to the third round, this is where the Cowboys had three picks. To ensure the defense, and they definitely did it. I think there were some questions of value when it came to those second and third round picks. But starting off with the third round pick, 11th overall was Osa Odigizua. And I'm definitely saying that right. But this is a guy who's going to come in, play 3 technique. He's a little bit undersized, but what he does do exceptionally well is play with exceptional leverage. He's got a wrestling background. He's got some really great wrestling tape, so he knows how to play at a low level, use leverage. He's got a pretty good quick first step and explosiveness. So I think Osa could definitely come in and compete at the 3 technique spot. I know the Cowboys drafted Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma last year in the 3rd round as well, so they are pretty deep at the 3 technique. They drafted Tristan Hill in the 2nd round a few years ago. Unfortunately, his season was cut short due to an ACL injury last year, but they're definitely going to be a little bit, definitely going to have some great depth at the 3 technique D-tackle position. So that's going to be great. Also, I think displayed, some great traits to come in and impact on the D-line. Also had some great production, second amongst Pac-12 DTs with 13 run stops last year. So he can definitely come in and provide an impact on the D-line, and that's exactly what they need. The Cowboys have been targeting that D-line position. They signed Carlos Watkins, former D-tackle with the Houston Texans. Brett Urban, who played for the Bears, he was actually one of the top 2 run defenders according to PFF. So the Cowboys have definitely bolstered their D-tackle interior position. So it remains to be seen what type of impact Osa does. I think, Cowboys fans should obviously, temper their expectations. It's not a guy who's going to come in and get you 5+ sacks. But he's definitely going to be someone who can be stout in the run game, give you some good pass rushing moves, and refine his technique over the duration of his first few years, and provide a solid impact and provide a solid rotation for Dan Quinn in that interior 3 technique position. So right after that, we had another pick in Chauncey Golston from Iowa. Now, this is a guy who has a high floor. He's definitely really refined in his technique. He can be slotted out at the DM position and also potentially come in the D-tackle position, potentially run downs. Very stout run defender. Possesses a great inside pass rush move as well. So this is another guy that they're targeting on D-line who could potentially come in and fill the role of Tyron Crawford, who recently retired this past offseason, as a guy who can provide you some precision flex, who's very stout at the run defense. Not a guy who's going to flash, a high level of pass rushing skills, but he can be a solid rotationary D lineman, and I think that's exactly what the Cowboys need when you're talking about, who's behind, DeMarcus Lawrence on that edge rotation. So if he can come on in rushing sequences, I think that'd be a really great pick for them as well. Some people thought that was a little bit of a reach. They think he could have gone in the 4th round, but once again, the Cowboys are trying to target that defensive line, so I give them credit for spending the resources with that. And so with the third round pick, they targeted Nashawn Wright from Oregon State. Now, this is a guy who people thought was a big reach. He wasn't even on some top 300 boards. They thought some people thought this guy could have gone, 6th, 7th round. But once again, this was probably Jerry Jones. Look, man, I had 3 picks in the 3rd round. I already picked 2 for the scouts. Trusting the scouts. All right, Dan Quinn. Pick somebody you like. And I don't think that's the best process to have. And that was how I was told to the media that that was a Dan Quinn, you pick him kind of guy. Sean Wright displays definitely some of the same traits as like a Baron Browning and Richard Sherman. Baron Browning being 6'4", Richard Sherman being 6'3". So you got a tall guy, not the best athletically, but he did possess some really great ball traits. Had 5 interceptions over his career at Oregon State. And so he can be a really good player in that deep cover 3 zone coverage that Dan Quinn is going to in place in Dallas. But unfortunately, there was some legitimate questions as to whether this was the right pick of the round. It was an extreme reach. I think there were some other guys on the board, like Elijah Molden from Washington. I thought that could have been a better pick because he provides some position flexibility from the safety and the corner spot. A little bit more refined as a cornerback. That went right after them in the draft to. So I think there's definitely some questions, some severe questions of value, and those are definitely legitimate concerns in the third round. So third round was a little bit of a mixed bag for the Cowboys. Definitely stacked up on that D-line depth. There was some other guys, and this was kind of the same trend, through the first, I guess the first 3 rounds really had some trends where guys were getting sniped from the Cowboys draft board, with Horn and Surtain going right before him. Second round, right before the Kelvin Joseph pick, Trevor Moore got snagged by the Raiders. Third round, Cowboys obviously looking for D-tackle help with the Osa pick, but a few picks before them, Philadelphia snags Milton Williams, from Louisiana State, who I was super high on. He's got tremendous motor, tremendous power, physicality. He could, coming off the edge, could slide down into the D tackle position, and someone the Cowboys brass was really high on. They sent a lot of scouts down there to his pro day. I think he's going to do exceptionally well. Nice to Fletcher Cox and play in multiple positions, so good on Philly for that. And we'll definitely have a Philadelphia Eagles and New York Giants draft cap in totality in a later episode. So I'm definitely looking forward to breaking down those picks for Philadelphia and the Giants as well. But turning and talking about draft value, give me one second. Drink some water. Always good to stay hydrated. All right. So going into the fourth round, Cowboys selected Jabril Cox, linebacker from LSU. Now this guy probably was, the resounding overall great value pick, probably the best value pick for the Cowboys in terms of his ability to cover. He's definitely one of the best cover linebackers in the draft, if not the best. Definitely an argument for that. He can cover tight ends, slot wide receivers, running backs. It doesn't really matter. He possesses such great coverage ability, so smooth with his hips. He lacks, no lack of his game in that area. One weakness of his game is, he's a smaller, a little bit undersized. So he struggles in the run game. But if, he's put in those nickel packages, those passing downs and those passing contacts, the Cowboys definitely snagged one of the best cover linebackers in the draft, who can come in and be an instant impact in those nickel packages, those passing packages as well. And Jabril Cox has displayed a great consistency even when he was with North Dakota State, and his coverage ability. He's just an exceptional athlete in that area. In the past season, 4 forced incompletions, reception percentage was second in defense in that regard, and second among SEC linebackers with his PFF overall grade 83.5. So this guy is going to be an exceptional cover athlete for the Cowboys, and they once again upgraded that linebacker core because Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Lewis are not the best cover guys. I think that's actually an area they both really struggle at, unfortunately. So they definitely upgraded with Jabril Cox. So we're potentially looking at Jabril Cox and Parsons as potentially the starting linebackers in 2022 if the Cowboys decide to move on from Leighton Vander Esch. They've already declined his fifth-year option. Jalen Lewis could potentially be a June 1st cut if they wanted to save cap room, but I highly doubt that's going to be the case. I think they'll roll with Jalen going into the next season, seeing if he could potentially upgrade or come back to where they expected him to be in terms of his play. But that seems doubtful. But Cowboys are creating a lot of great competition in that linebacker room, so that's great to see. And glad they're focusing on that as well. Now, the Cowboys had 2 fourth-round picks. Their second pick in that fourth round was Josh Ball out of Marshall. Now, this is a tackle who has tremendous ability. A lot of people thought he could have gone in the second round, but fortunately, despite his tremendous ability as a tackle, he gave up very few pressures in his time at Marshall, especially last season. It's pretty tremendous where he is as a tackle and potentially developing into the starting swing tackle opposite Excuse me, not opposite of Ty Nsekhe, but also could compete at that spot. Fortunately, he did have some serious domestic abuse allegations. Very serious domestic abuse allegations, and just really was a head scratcher because there were some linemen that could have gone in that same area in the fourth round that kind of had that measurable ability in comparison to Josh Ball. So it was really, really a shame, in my opinion, a shameful pick. I know Jerry Jones, when he was questioned on that, he's like, I'm a guy of second chances. I'm a big believer in that. But, at the end of the day, is it really worth it, to draft a guy that high? Is it really worth it, after the reputation that Jerry Jones kind of has when it comes down to, domestic violence, with the Greg Hardy signing. I know Greg Hardy was never convicted on any charge, but there was some serious allegations. So I think this does no favors. I don't think it was a smart move on their part, but the guy's talented. Only allowed 3 career sacks on 724 pass blocking snaps. 7 games last season, only allowed one pressure. So he's got talent, but the off the field issue, once again, as we see the trend here, is troubling with this pick. So. We'll see how it pans out. Hopefully he can keep his head clean, and maybe the second chance will be good for him and he's learned. But from his press conference, it didn't sound like he had much remorse. It didn't sound like he learned much of anything. He kind of wanted to brush it aside. So not good on any account other than his on-field talent. But going to the 5th round, this was actually another great, intriguing pick that I think could definitely be a guy that could potentially have some modest impact on the Cowboys, more so than some people might believe, even though the Cowboys wide receiver room is a little bit crowded. Simi Fehoko from Stanford, wide receiver, large, tall wide receiver, great top-end speed. He can be a great vertical threat. Just seeing some of his catches at Stanford, I mean, the guy can catch in all different areas of his body. He has a wide catch radius, on top of tremendous measurables as well. The only unfortunate weakness for him is, he drops really easy passes for a guy who can, catch all around his body or outside his body. So, that was definitely a knock on him. He's not a very polished route runner either. But he does possess, great top end speed. He can go after. He can stretch the field. So he's a person who can come into the Cowboys room, compete with Cedric Wilson, who right now is probably going to be the 4th overall wide receiver on the depth chart. Noah Brown, even though Noah Brown possesses tremendous blocking ability, so he's definitely going to be probably the Cowboys' 5th receiver. But I think there's definitely going to be an argument if Fehoko can come into the preseason and really perform well in training camp, so consistency and great development. I think he could be the number 6 roster wide receiver on the depth chart, if not practice squad. Depending on how things go. But he's definitely a great value pick at this time. Definitely want a guy who can have athletic ability in the wide receiver position, and it's a testament to the depth of this draft that you can get someone in the 5th round of his capabilities. So yeah, very happy with the pick. Displayed great production. Led Pac-12 receivers with 2.73 yards per route. And second among Pac-12 receivers with 15.5 yards per catch. So the guy, he's got the production and the athleticism. We'll see if he can put it together at the next level. It's always a high learning curve for wide receivers to come in, especially if wide receivers drafted in this position to come in and make an impact. But for a wide receiver room stacked with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup, I think that's not really an expectation. But if the Cowboys do move on from Michael Gallup, I think that could warrant Fehoko potentially being able to come up to the 3rd spot, depending on how he plays. So we'll see. Moving on to the 6th round, Cowboys drafted Quinton Bohanna, doubling down on their Kentucky roots. I think they might have someone they got a nice ear on in that Kentucky coaching staff. But this is a big boy. Who's definitely going to be playing the one technique spot. Definitely displays great explosiveness. First step, I think he can really be a guy who can come in and clog running lanes. He's not going to give you much on the pass rush, but he does have the ability to move laterally very well. Fortunately, he does get plays too high. In his pad levels, his pads get way too high, so he can't leverage an anchor as well, but he's definitely a guy who will come in and play one technique position, take away some snaps from Antoine Woods. Woods, definitely been a solid guy, especially, at his contract level, who can, get dirty, take up blockers. But I think there's been some questions of Antoine Woods' um, uh, uh, consistency as a run defender. So it's good that Bohanna can come in and compete in training camp and hopefully, develop into a one technique player who can, to command those double teams and free up, Parsons, Layton, or Jalen Lewis to come in, and that's sorely needed. And another great body to add to that line to get the Cowboys from being bottom in rush defense to somewhere in the middle as average. So the Cowboys fans would be great not to have super high expectations for Bohanna, but I think he's definitely someone who could come into the rotation and potentially have an impact on that D line. He displays great traits in that ability in defending the run. So I'm definitely happy with that pick, especially in the 6th round as a project player. So Cowboys had another 6th round pick, Israel Mukomu from South Carolina, played corner. This is another guy who displays kind of that profile fit that we saw with the Deshaun Wright pick. Tall guy, 6'4", a long wingspan. Played opposite of J.C. Horn, not the South Carolina corner I was looking for, but it's pretty solid enough as it is. I think this guy potentially could come in and I think the Cowboys brass said they wanted him to play safety, so he's going to have some position flex. So I think Dan Quinn is going to have some great fun, mixing and matching different guys in coverage, guys who are flexible. So, the Cowboys have been notoriously neglecting, the safety position for years now. And you see the results on the field. It's been a very mixed bag. I know Donovan Wilson came on pretty strong last year, the free safety position, and a lot of guys are hoping that he continues to play strong. Wilson is such a physical hitter. He shows pretty good range for safety of his size. So hopefully he can come in. Mukomu can come into that safety position and provide some flexibility in terms of the cover schemes that Quinn wants to run in that cover 3 defense. This is another good, potential high upside pick. Guy who has the intangibles that fit with the Dan Quinn defensive DNA. Of DBs, defensive backs. It's a little bit unfortunate that the Cowboys haven't drafted someone who's played predominantly at the safety position, but they did sign Neal, and they got Donovan Wilson back there. So we'll see how things play out in terms of that position. Then moving on to the 7th round, we had Matt Fornock from Nebraska, offensive guard, but he also has ability to play at center. I think he potentially could back up Tyler Biadasz at the center position, play backup guard behind Connor Williams. Could compete for snaps with Connor McGovern, who was drafted from Penn State a few years ago, and provide some good developmental depth at the line position, and come in, and compete in that depth chart. He's a guy who he needs to refine his technique, but he's got starting experience. It's great pass blocking efficiency in college at Nebraska. So I think this is a great developmental pick for them, to continue to increase their D-line depth, especially in the interior of the line as well. Joe Looney hasn't been re-signed, so that backup center position is looking kind of thin right now behind Tyler Biadasz. But I think the Cowboys are pretty happy that their 4th round pick of last year is going to be starting, and he displayed great blocking ability. So Matt can come in into this off season, training camp, mini camp, and hopefully provide some solid depth for the Cowboys. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. That was the last pick for the Cowboys. Just thinking about just overall trends throughout this whole draft. The Cowboys definitely wanted to get longer in terms of the arm length. I think a lot of people saw the trends. Osa, Goldson, Colson from Iowa, Bohanna, all each have longer than 34-inch arms. So we definitely see that Quinn prefers his linemen with longer arms. Defensive heavy draft, as we've seen with the first 5 picks, all being defensive players. That's, actually, you could say the first 6. This is the first time in Jerry Jones's history as an owner where the first 5 picks, 6 picks were defensive players, and first since 1982 for the franchise. So Cowboys are definitely looking to get better on defense. They picked, and threw as many darts at the board. There's some questions of the value of some of those picks, but we can't knock them for trying to address that. And the expectation for the Cowboys, they weren't too bad, passing wise. They were middle of the pack in terms of pass defense. So they'll look to get better with some of the additions that they made this offseason. But the run game, I think, is definitely the biggest issue, and I think Parsons is definitely going to address that. He's going to be probably one of the tremendous run defenders in that linebacker core. Osa, I think, definitely be a stout run defender alongside Golston as well. Bohanna is another big body throwing down there. So if they can improve and get in the middle range, just be average with the Cowboys offense, I think that should provide them the ability to contend and not look to give up the second most points per game in the league. So. The biggest concern, though, overall with the draft, I would say, is just the character issues that we've seen from Parsons. I know some of that is a little minor. Joseph, potentially being dismissed from multiple programs. Ball, who got dismissed from FSU for his domestic violence issues. I think that there's some real true questions as to whether these off-field issues will prop their head in a negative way over the season, but we'll see. What type of culture Dallas establishes in that locker room. Dak Prescott is a tremendous leader, so I think people will definitely look up to his leadership. We'll see who becomes a defensive leader in that locker room. DeMarcus Lawrence obviously is a great presence. His tenacity, his attitude, and approach to the game is second to none, and no one can question his production on the field. So hopefully those guys can come together and really guide these guys in the right direction. If I had to give an overall letter grade for this draft, I would give it about a B. I think there's the reason why it could have been graded higher. It's just the value from some of these picks, especially with the Parsons pick. Off-ball linebacker at the top 15. There's some questions of value there. The reach with Sean Wright, it was a huge, major reach, and potentially Golson maybe going picked around higher, but I'm okay. Because they are stacking that line with depth. So it's a B. I think, the pick of Jabril Cox in the 4th round was exceptional. Simi Fahoku in the fifth round. Joseph, I think there's definitely an argument he was the 3rd best corner in that class with his athletic ability and his coverage ability. I think he can, provide exceptional coverage opposite of Diggs. And Parsons, I think, could be a transcendent linebacker in this league and for the Cowboys. So overall, I would say it's a mixed bag. But, that's the draft. Can always, have, a perfect draft like we saw last year. I think that's definitely set the tone for a lot of Cowboys fans looking to recapitulate that. But hopefully, Parsons does buck the trend. The Cowboys definitely struggled mightily in drafting the first round. Defensively, if you can really look back at some of the first round picks, from Leighton Vander Esch to, Morris Claiborne to Taco Charlton. I think Byron Jones is probably, in the past 10 years, is probably the only first round pick defensively that has really hit. And unfortunately, didn't sign him, which is another debatable question. And the reason why the Cowboys are in this position now, defensively, to pick a corner high. Excuse me. So we'll see how this draft ends up. I think Cowboys fans would be wise to temper expectations, but hopefully the expectation is for the Cowboys defense to get to the middle pack, with the Cowboys offense being what it is, with Dak Prescott coming back healthy with the weapons they have. Dalton Schultz coming in, playing well at the tight end position. He's definitely someone who doesn't get enough talk at the tight end position. With Blake Jarwin coming back healthy, Tony Pollard to seek, the line can stay healthy. If all these guys can stay relatively healthy, the Cowboys can compete. Can we say they're Super Bowl contenders? That remains to be seen. Offensively, they have all the firepower to compete with any team in the league, but defensively, that's still a wild card. So we'll see. Definitely got it. Dan Quinn coming in here, who's got a tremendous background. We'll see how they compete. Definitely the attitude is going to be there. The intelligence level is going to be there. So we'll see if they can put it all together. But this is an exciting part of the NFL. Don't know exactly what you're going to get, but there's always that unrelenting, naive hope that comes with it. So excited to do this episode for you guys. Looking forward to doing more episodes in the future. Look next for our total NFC East recap. Northeast Connector is definitely going to be highlighting all things NFC East. So Kevin and I are very, very excited to bring you future content. If you haven't, definitely subscribe to the channel so you can get updates, so you can get on that YouTube algorithm. We can get on the front page whenever we upload a new episode. And I'm definitely looking forward to the future episodes. If you want to follow me, my hashtag is Wes Taylor X on Twitter, also on Instagram. But definitely Twitter if you're looking for, to follow me and engage in conversation, which I definitely love and looking forward to doing more as we progress through this endeavor with the Northeast Connector and we ride this train through this next season. So thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, you'll have a great one.